So, good evening, everybody. Yesterday we have gone through the basics of Python, where we checked its history and what all data types it has. And today we will look more into the types, some more details. Okay. So, one of the data types that we have checked yesterday was strings. So, you also have one option to define raw strings. Okay. So, what is the difference? Is that if you use any escape characters inside the string, they will be interpolated. For example, this uh, double slash will be changed to single slash because it's escape character. Okay, so it will escape the one slash character that is there in the string. But if we want to keep it the string as it is without any interpolation, like slash n, slash t, or slash r, which has a special meaning, then we can use this R syntax to keep it as it is. So these are called raw strings. And if you don't want Python to interpolate your string, then you should use it. Okay, so these are some of the built-in methods, uh, or you can say functions, right? Because the basic difference between functions and methods is that methods you have to call on string object. Okay, so for example, this find basically a function, it is not a method. Okay, because you are passing a string as an argument instead of calling it as string dot find. Okay, so this is a function which find particular substring into your string. Okay, it might be a method only. Yeah, so this is basically substring. This is not actually the main string. So we will call it as a string dot find, and then we will pass the substring that we want to find, and from where to start in your main string, starting and ending index. Okay. Similarly, we have this join function, which will join any sequence and make it a string. Okay, so let's see some of the functions. For example, you have this sequence. Okay, and then if you want to join, then you have to just so it works like this, that you have to give separator, means what will be the separator for the join, and then your method. Join method. Let's try. Hmm.
Works on the string or element here the of the list is here.
What are you saying?
Uh, the list we have created, right? The elements are integer.
Your voice is breaking, double.
The list we have created, right?
Mm-hmm. It's an
So
integer list.
those, yes, correct.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Integer list. Yeah. Right. These are all string functions, so they work on a string only. So your sequence should contain strings. Okay, and if it is not, then you will get this kind of error. I think it is saying also that sequence item 0 expected string int found, means 0th index it found the integer. So at this point only it throws an error. Even it did not check other elements, it just checked on the first element. So in case of join, it is used to make a string out of sequences. Okay, and this is another function, length. So if you want to get length of the string, then you can use it. So these methods are just the frequent method that you will use in your function, but there are a lot of other methods or functions as well. Okay, So len is again a function, it is not a method, because you can directly call it a string. Okay. So, and if you want to get the length of the string, you can do like this. So it's a function and not a method. The lstrip method, which removes all. So any spaces which are there before the string, it will remove. It will not remove any spaces which are in between of the strings. Okay, it will just remove the leading spaces. Similarly, we have a rstrip, which will remove all trailing white space of the string. But we also have a strip method that will remove spaces on leading as well as trailing. It will remove both kind of spaces. So this also you will need to clear your lines that if you're reading from a file or anything. And just like join, there is a split method also that you can use to split strings based on their delimiter. So these are some of the functions that normally we use strictly, but there are a lot of other uh, functions out there. Okay, so if you just want to know what all functions are there, you just can use dir. It will give you all these functions or methods that you can use. So we have all lower, start, split lines. So suppose whenever you are writing a Python program and then there is a need that you want to do some operation on the string, then first check documentation like this, and you might find what you're looking for. So just like string lists also has some functions and methods. For example, if you want to delete any element from the list, then there is a del function. Okay, it's a function which takes list as an argument, and basically it will take the element that you are trying to remove. For example, if you want to remove chemistry, then you have to call del list and then the index that you want to delete. One more thing is that this example is not a good example because list is a built-in type. Okay, so you should not use it as a identifier in your programs. Okay, because list is itself is a object. Means if you just type list, it's an object. You should not use it as a identifier in any case. So we are trying to delete a value at index 2. So there is another method which is remove, okay, which you can also use over the list. So these are some of the functions and methods. So functions you can call and pass list as an argument. For example, length of the list, maximum value, minimum value. So since string list tuples all are sequences, some of the functions are common. Since len, for example, is common across all the sequences. So you can use it over list, tuple, or strings. And max is more like a mathematical and numerical function. So if your list contains any numerical values, you can use max. If you want to convert any sequence to list, you can use list function. Okay, so if you have a tuple and you want to convert it to a list, you can use this. Or if you have a string and then you want to convert it to a list, then you can use this list function. And in methods, you have some operations that you can do over a list. For example, if you want to append any object or any value in the list, you can use it. And you can also count how many times some value is repeating. You can extend the list. Okay, so it will add entire sequence into the list and returns the index of the object. So if you have multiple occurrences, it will return the lowest index. And you can also insert at particular index. If you want to insert any value, then you can use this function, list.insert, and then it will take index and the value that you are trying to add as an argument. There are some more functions to operate our list, like list.pop. So it will return last object from the list. Okay. And then there is a remove function that method that we talked about, removes a particular object from the list. For that, you do not need to pass index. You can just use the particular value that you want to remove. There is a reverse function, a reverse method that you can call. So reverse all the objects in place, and you can also sort it. So for sorting, reversing, there is a functions also, right? So these are more like a Python 3 methods. So that's what changed from Python 2 to Python 3, because for to do the same thing, there were functions and methods. So they streamlined it and made it all as a methods. Because since Python is object-oriented based, then whatever operation that you want to perform, they should be as a method, not as a function. Okay. So that was one change. Like you can call this reverse as a function as well. Okay, in Python 3, I think. So this we are running Python 2.7. So suppose if you have a list, this is called reverse. So it is actually reversed. So it returns an iterator object, and you can convert it into list if you want, or you can iterate over it. So both you can do. So it has reversed, and it actually returns an iterator, means you can use it inside any for or while loop to iterate over it. But in Python 3, they added it as a method. So list.reverse you can use. And similarly, sort, there is a function, and you can use it as a method as well. Okay. For example, this is it works. No. Sorted is there.
LST.sort will work, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm explaining in Python 2 and 3. Let's check whether in Python 2 this function is available or not. So it is, I think, sorted the list in place. Okay. So you can call it as a method, means you can call it over your list object, or you can also call like this. If you want to sort it as a function, you can do that also. So there are multiple ways you can, sort a particular list, and that's what they streamlined in Python 3. Right? So to avoid confusion, that which sort to use, right? If you have multiple variation, then which sort is better? So that's why. So I think method, if you call it as a method, that is a better way to use this sort function. So let me show you one more thing. So suppose we have this list. So now list is 4761, and if you do like this, for example, sorted, then it is returning sorted list. But if you print LST, it is still the same, because this is not an in-place sort. So if you actually want to make change, then you have to do like this, LST equal to sorted, and like this, then only it will work. But if you are using the method format, which is LST dot sort, it will change or sort the list in place, right? It will change it in place, so you don't have to do one more assignment. So depending on the situation, if you wanted to keep the original list and just want the sorted output, you can do that. Or if you want to change it or sort it permanently, then you should use this method. This is the subtle difference. So any questions on list tuples or strings? Okay. So similar to list and strings, there is dictionary methods also that you can use. This is like clear to remove all the elements from the dictionary. Then there's a copy method, form keys. Dict.get you can use if you want to set a default value for it. Okay. So in Python, if some key does not exist, it throws an exception. Okay. For example, let me show you. Suppose we have this dictionary. Okay, so if you suppose try to access non-existing key, okay, you will get this key error because it is throwing an exception. But you have to make sure that in program that it should not happen. Then you can use this get function. Okay, so you can just do d.get and then the key that you are trying to access. So if nothing is there, it will not return anything. But if you want to set it to any default value, right? If nothing is set, then return something. Then you can set it to 0 or something like that. And so this is more like a Python 3 syntax. So this is another function has key. If you want to search for a key into the dictionary, then you can use it, or you can use a membership operator that we have seen yesterday. Like if key in dict, then also it will work, or you can use this function as well. Both you can use. Dict.items is there. It will return key value in pairs, basically in tuples, and then you can iterate over it. If you want to get all the keys from the dictionary, and if you want to set any default, so just like get, there is a set default function as well. Then if you want to update the dictionary, if you want to combine two dictionaries, that also you can do. And this is similar to dict.keys. It will return only the values. Yes, there are a lot of other functions that you can use our dictionaries. These are some of the frequently used ones. Okay,
Because,
that yeah.
yeah, what's from keys? Oh,
So this is to create a new dictionary with keys from a sequence and values set to value. So I let me check whether so it is there from keys. So it takes like this. It will take a table and see a sequence and then the value. Okay, so it will set all the to the particular value. Okay, for
okay,
example,
all, yeah. All the arrays to a particular value means none or one, whatever.
yeah, for example, if you want to create a dictionary, let's see, take LST. But first we have to create B. Okay, so B we can create as dict, and we can call it. It keeps saying that it is not a keyword argument. Default.
It should be value, not values. We have given values.
Okay. But it is saying something different.
Yeah, right. It is assigned to none only.
But from sequence, if you want to create, we can check its syntax later, but it is to create a new dictionary from a sequence. Again, you will not use these kind of functions. Maybe very rarely you might use it, but mostly like tick.items, tick.keys, tick.values, and clear. All these functions will be more frequently used. Okay, any questions on data types? I think we have covered data types. We can move on to a new topic, functions. So I think you guys might be aware that how to define a function in Python that is using def statement. Okay? So def function name and then the parameters that you want to pass. Immediately after this statement, you can put your document string. Okay? So that will be like a documentation for the function. And when you print like dir or if you print its help, then this string will be displayed. Okay. So a lot of IDEs or document generation tools uses this doc string to generate documentation as well. So you can use that. Then function suite means all the code related to the function. And then if you want to return something from it, if you do not return anything, then it will by default return none. So this is the template of a function which you can define in Python. So these are some of the rules that the block begins with def statements and followed by function name and parentheses for parameters. Any input parameters or arguments should be placed within these. You can also define parameters inside these parentheses. The first statement of a function can be an optional statement. Okay, the documentation string of the function or doc string. The code block within every function starts with a colon. So this colon is also important. So don't forget to use add it. Otherwise, you will get a syntax error. And return anywhere in function, if it finds any return statement, the function will exit. Okay. Optionally, passing back an expression to the caller. If you want to pass any another function or any object that you want to return to the caller function, you can use it here. Another thing that all parameters or arguments in Python language are passed by reference. Okay. So pass by reference means if you change anything inside your function, that whatever object you are passing will also get changed. So it means if you change what a parameter refers to within a function, the change also reflects back in the calling function. Okay. So let me show you one of the example for this. You have this list, okay, and then you are defining a function. When you say list, suppose I have changed the 0th element or first element, 5, and then I call this function. Okay, so can anybody tell me what it will print?
523.
523 because it will change that sequence. Okay, inside the function. So if you run this, it has actually changed the list. So it has actually changed the original list. So you should be cautious while doing this because you might not expect it, right? That it has changed your list. So it is better to pass a copy of lists instead of passing the original list. Okay. So similarly, suppose we can take one more parameter here. Okay. So Uday, can you tell me what it will print?
Actually, you have not passed num in the function. It will give errors.
Okay, let's pass now. Now,
Now it will 7.
what it will print? 7.
7.
It will print 9 itself because
Yeah.
pass that as a
Global.
Okay. So as you can see, it is still keeping its value, right? Even if you have changed it inside a function, keeping its value. So what is the meaning of that passed by references then? Dhaval, can you explain?
uh, as per my understanding, only sequences which are passed to a function are passed as a reference. Other than that, uh, the values which are not sequence are not passed as a reference.
Okay, but
Means like
the
if we pass
but,
list
Hmm.
if we passed list tuples like that, it is passed
Hmm.
as a reference to the function. But if
Okay.
we pass like this integer or anything, it won't be passed as a reference.
Okay, but the statement is that whatever argument that you are passing to a function, it is always passed as a reference. Then it is contradicting, right? You are saying that in case of sequences, it is passed by reference, but if you are passing other than sequences, it will be passed by value.
The list is mutable, right? So that is why it is able to mutate. And integer and strings are not mutable. So they won't be.
Yes, it would
So
have created a new num, right?
It is a global and local scope in terms of num.
hmm. So the understanding is that indeed it is passed as reference because it is pointing to the reference only, right? But it's a non-mutable object. So when you pass it here means, okay, let's do one more experiment. If I do like this, id of num, then I think it will be more clear that whether it is passed by reference or passed by value. And let's see here only.
Yes.
Sorry, Sridhar, you're saying something?
Yeah, because we are putting the number uh, with a global context. The context we are not printing for the number.
No, but we are list is also in global context, right? But we are passing it and then we are changing it, and outside also it is changing, right? If it is a scope issue, then it should also work for list as well, right? It should not change. Okay, so what one experimentation what we are doing is we are first printing the memory address that has been used for this variable, and then again inside the function, even before changing, we are again printing it. Okay, and let's print it after also, and let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the first thing, which is this. Okay, that where we have assigned it. So the ID is 88L, and once you are the function inside the function, then again if we print ID, it is still the same, right? It is still referring to the same memory location. But once you change it, then as I explained in my previous session, right, it's a non-mutable object. So if you do a new assignment, it will create a new object and then it will change its value. And the scope of this variable is local only. Okay. So it will not change this global value. So, okay. So if you print again the ID of this, now it is changed, right? There is a different address. So, so this statement is correct that all the values are passed by reference. Okay. But based on their mutability and non-mutability, inside the function, if you change it, then that's how they will behave. So what change we did is actually at the different memory location. And if you come out of this function, it is still pointing to the same location. If we check here, it is still pointing to the old memory location, right? This object is different. This is same. All three are same. This is the only different value. So the scope of this variable is different.
Okay, is within.
Yes, Ethan.
Sir, but if I reinitialize the list variable inside the function in its local scope, then it will be the different list, na?
What you're saying? Can you repeat, Mahesh?
Yeah, if I reinitialize the list variable, like in my first statement, inside function, I reinitialize this list, then it will be the new list, na? Treated as new list, because new reference will be generated for it.
But it will also change the outside list. Okay, let's see. Suppose you're saying this only, right? That I'm assigning a new list, and let's see what it will print. Okay, it is still printing the old list. Yeah. Once you
different.
So this is again like a local scope. You're not changing the list, but you are changing the entire object.
Yeah. Yes.
So here also it will. Yeah. So here also it will create a new object, and it will not actually change. So that's what I was saying, that if you want to change your list, then create a copy of it. Means you can do it like this, that list one equal to LST.
Yeah.
Now this is a copy of the list and not the actual list. Now if you change this LST1, it will not have any impact on this.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So this is like one of the cautious. You should be cautious about this thing, because if you are not intended to change your list, then you should not pass it like this, right? You should create a copy first and then use it.
Yeah.
But if your object is non-mutable, then also you should be careful, because the scope of that variable will be local only. So if you change it, it will not reflect outside. Right? So in both ways it works. But if you do want to modify this variable, then there is one more keyword in Python called global. Okay. So if you actually want to use this object as a global variable, then you can use this statement, global. So if I change it inside the string, or sorry, inside the function, it will change the outside value as well. Okay. Yeah, because we are passing it as an argument, that's why it is. So if you do want to change your global value, then you you should use it like this, and then you can change it. Because it's a global variable, so you should treat it like this and do not pass it as an argument. Okay, so now it has changed the value of num. Okay, here. So if you want to use any variable as a global variable, then you should use this keyword. Okay, otherwise this num will be treated as a local variable and the scope will be limited. So if you find yourself wondering why because in, for example, programming language like Perl, if you define any variable at the top, it becomes global by default. You don't have to define it again inside your function or anything. Okay. So in Python, it is reverse. Oh, sorry, Perl, it is reverse. You have to, if you want to use any global variable as local, then there is, I think, a local keyword that you can use to convert into a local variable. Okay, any questions on this? So we were talking about this point where the all parameters in the Python language are passed by reference. It means if you change what our parameter refers to within a function, the change also reflects back in the calling function or calling script. Any questions on this, or we can continue? One more thing I will add here about return values. So suppose if you return anything out of your function like this. Let's see. Okay, so it will return a value. So what if you want to return multiple values? Devashish? Hello, Devashish?
Hello.
Suppose if you want to
Hello.
return this A as well. Hello? Suppose if you want to return this A as well along with num. So what we can do? We can put a comma, right, like this.
Not sure if you can return multiple values.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, we can return.
Yeah, we can return.
Okay, so there is no error. And if I want to print, okay, it is able to print. But what if I do like this? Uday, can you explain what will happen if I do like this? I'm returning two values, but I'm taking it into a single variable only. Uday?
Yeah.
It will take as a list. I'm not sure.
It will throw error.
It will take it as tuple, I guess.
Tuple,
What will happen?
tuple.
Uday,
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
It will take it as tuple.
Search कर लिया क्या Google? Yeah, so it will basically take it as a tuple. Means if you just print it. Okay, it's a tuple. So this is not a surprise, right? Because as I've said yesterday, right, if you just write it like this, it actually creates a tuple. So comma is basically creating a tuple. Okay. So if I, write like this, 2,3, then it will actually create a tuple for you. The same concept is working at this place as well. Right? It has created a tuple. So what making it is a tuple is basically this comma, right? And parenthesis is not required. If you put it, then also it is okay. But if you are writing like this, then it actually makes a tuple and then return it. Then you can use index to access it, right? So it's sequence, so you can use it. And I think, suppose if we return it as a list, let's see. Okay, we are returning it as a list. Then it will return a list. So it depends on how you are returning, right? So it will not always be tuple, but the way you are returning. Okay, Uday?
Yes.
Yeah, since we are not using any square bracket and we are just using comma, so it actually makes it a tuple and then return. So based on what kind of structure you want, you can program like that. Okay, so since we are talking about functions, let's talk about arguments and parameters. So what is the difference between arguments and parameters? Seetal, can you tell me what is the difference? Okay, I will explain. So arguments means whatever you are passing to a function. Okay. So if you are calling your function like this, your value is actually an argument, and parameters means whatever you are receiving into the function. Okay. So if you define your function like this one, and here if you are receiving anything in the variables, they are called parameters. Okay. So whenever we talk about arguments, means we are function, and whenever we are talking about parameters, means it's a result. Okay. So these are some of the multiple ways you can actually call and receive the arguments, right? And the parameters, how to define it. So you can call your function like this value. So it will be mapped by position. So if you want to pass multiple arguments, you can do like value 1, value 2, value 3. And these are positional arguments. So you should maintain position whenever you are passing any values. Okay. Or you can, what you can use is, you can pass it as keyword arguments. Okay. So to do that, you can use name equal to value. Okay. So let me show you one example where this will be useful. Suppose we have this function. Suppose you have this function add. Okay, so this is our normal simple function. Now, how you can call it is basically like this. You can do like this. Let's print it instead of returning. It will print. Another way you can call it is using names. Okay. For example, you can actually say b equal to 4. and a equal to 9. Okay, so it actually resolved it, means what is the value of a and what is the value of b. So if you print values here, it will show you correctly. So since we have passed b equal to 4, it is printing as 4 and then a equal to 9. So if you do not want to be sensitive about the order that you are passing your arguments, you can use format like this. Okay, where you can actually use the parameters names. So, but these names should actually match with the whatever parameters you are passing, right? This is one of the constant. Okay, so that's what we are looking at. Name equal to value keyword argument matched by name. And then there is one star that you can use. So any number of positional arguments. If you want to pass variable number of positional arguments, then you can use this star. Okay. And if you want to pass dictionary as an argument, then you can use this double star. So for example, if you want to pass A and B, right? So you can create a tuple A comma B or 1 comma 2. You can call this function. So it's wow. But if you try to just directly pass it, then it will throw an error. Okay? Because it takes 2 arguments, but we are passing only 1. So if you want to combine your arguments, then you can use it like this, and then you can use list as well. But since if we do not want it to change, then we can use tuple. And to pass it, you can use 1 star. So this is what we are actually talking about is arguments and not the parameters. Okay. In how many ways we can call a function, and we haven't changed our way to receive the arguments. They are still positional, right? This is the first argument and this is the second argument. But these are the multiple ways you can call your function. Okay, similarly, you can pass any dictionary with using double star, any key value pairs. Okay. And at the function side, these are called as parameters. So these are the ways you can actually receive arguments. Okay, so whenever you pass any argument to any function, it will be received in parameters. So simple argument means it's again positional argument. So if you have multiple positional arguments, they expect that you should call your function in the same manner. And if you define any parameter like this, then it has a different meaning than what we have seen before. Okay. So the meaning of this is that if you do not pass anything, then it will be taken as the default value. Okay. For example, if you want to set any default value for B, then it will not actually throw any error if you do not pass the second argument. Okay. So by default, it took as B as 6 because we are not passing anything. So in case of parameter, the interpretation is different. Means it works as a default value. So this is like some of the confusing things that we see, right, in Python. What is the argument, what is the parameter, and how the syntax works, because it works both ways. Whenever if you are using, if you are passing anything as an argument, or if you are receiving as a parameter, so that what creates a confusion. So you can remember that whenever there is a parameter, the syntax means we are setting default values, and if we use it inside a function calling like this, then we are actually passing a named argument. Okay, so it took this value. We can call it like this as well. Any questions on this? If you did not understand, then also you can ask. So there are other ways also. For example, if you do like this, that means you can actually receive multiple arguments. Means, for example, here we are just receiving 2 arguments. But if we want to define any function which can take any number of arguments, then you can just use a star. That is called multiple positional arguments. Then let's print a difference. Okay, so it's actually makes it as a tuple. Okay, so this means that we can pass any number of arguments. So if you are planning to pass a lot of arguments and you are not sure whether there will be 2 arguments or 3 arguments that you will pass to your function, or if you are passing any sequence, then you can receive it like this. And there is one keyword version as well. Okay, so all the arguments will be converted into key value pairs. And there are some restrictions that we will talk about. For example, if you pass it like this, means you're expecting multiple positional arguments. Then if you pass name, then it actually means that it is expecting keyword argument. So once you define variable multiple positional arguments, then you cannot use other positional arguments, right? Then because it will be confusing. Okay, so because all the positional arguments will be consumed by this star and whatever variable you are choosing. Okay, so after that, if you want to pass any more arguments, then you should use keyword arguments, because that's only how it will work. So if you want to restrict your function to always receive keyword arguments, then you can do like this only. So star comma, and after that, it will always expect that you should pass your argument as a keyword argument. These are Python 3.0 specific changes. It is not available in Python 2. Okay, in Python 2 only this point functionality is available. So this is how we can call the function and receive parameters. Okay. Now, if you want to combine multiple type of arguments, means positional, keyword, or multiple variable arguments, then what is the rules that should apply? Okay. So whenever you are calling any function, the arguments must appear in this order only. Any positional arguments, okay, followed by a combination of any keyword arguments, and then the iterable form, followed by dictionary form. Okay. So if you change the sequence, Python will give you the error syntax. So this is where we are talking about function call, means we are talking about arguments. And when we are receiving the arguments, means as in parameters, then these are the rules. Okay, so you can define like any normal argument, which is positional argument, followed by default arguments, which works like name equal to value, and then followed by the star name. Okay, means any number of positional arguments. And once you do that, you can only define keyword arguments. Okay, and after that, variable number of keyword arguments. Because if you first define variable number of keyword arguments, then you will not be able to pass keyword arguments. Okay, because they all will be consumed by this variable part. Okay, let me explain. Suppose let's take this only. Yeah, so I think it those syntax error directly. Okay. So I think this was the problem, because it is already syntax checking that in both call and header, this argument form should appear last. Okay? That's why it is causing problem. Means if you want to pass any variable number of keyword arguments, then you should keep it at the end only. Otherwise, it will throw in syntax error. So this is the sequence of arguments matching. So first it will assign any non-keyword arguments by position. Then it will by matching names. So the same rules that we have seen, that's how Python works. So that's why these rules are in place. Okay? Because first it will assign any non-keyword arguments, means positional arguments. And then by matching names, named arguments. Then star name means variable number of positional arguments. And then variable number of keyword arguments, and if there is any default. So these are some of the examples that you can define your function like. Means, for example, you can do this. So it will be basically you're defining a default value for B. So if you do not pass B, then it's okay. Or if you do like this, means first two positional arguments and then star args. That means A, B will be, you have to pass in any case, but these are optional. So if you pass any other arguments, it will be consumed by star args. And same, if you want to pass keyword arguments, then it should come after this star args. Okay. So here we are defining default value, and this is Python 3 specific syntax. In Python 2 it will not work. Okay. So after that, keyword argument and default value for the keyword argument. So these are different prototypes. I mean, these are there's a lot of variety in ways that you can receive arguments and pass. Okay, so based on a requirement, you should define your argument and parameters accordingly. Any questions for this, or we should move to next? Okay, so in functions, there is one more concept called lambda functions. Or they are also called as anonymous function. Okay, anonymous means which doesn't have any name. So these functions are called anonymous because they are not declared in the standard manner by using def statement. Okay, you can use the lambda keyword to create small anonymous functions. Lambda forms can take any number of arguments but return just one value, okay, in the form of an expression. So this is the syntax, like lambda, then the arguments that you want to pass, and this is the expression. So here you don't have to put any return statement. By default, it will return the evaluation of this expression. So it will basically add these two arguments and return it. Okay. They cannot contain commands or multiple expressions. So multi-line expression is not supported. You have to do everything in a single line. Lambda functions have their own local namespace and cannot access variables other than those in their parameter list. Okay. So Lambda cannot access outside variables. Whatever you are passing as a parameter, that only they can access. And those in the global namespace. Okay. If they are in global namespace, then only they will be able to use it. So this is how you can create a function. Like you have to write like lambda, then the arguments, and then the expression means you should do something with these, whatever arguments you have passed. So these you can directly use as a key to your means any value to your dictionary, or you can store it directly inside the list. So if you just quickly want to perform some operation on any sequence or anything, then you can actually create this lambda function instead of defining the standard format using def keyboard. So this is, as you can see, it is actually creating a function and then assigning back it to the sum keyword or variable. Then you can call it like this. So let's talk about scopes. So all variables in program may not be accessible at all locations. Okay, so it depends on scope, whether that particular variable is in scope or not. So that will define its access. So the scope of variable determines the portion of the program where you can access a particular identifier. So there are two basic scope of variables, either global or local. Okay, so what is the difference? Let's see, global versus local variables. So variables that are defined inside a function body named local scope. Okay, so for example, if you have this function and code, right, a equal to 10, then we have this myfunc where we are passing b as an argument, and then we are printing both a and b, and then we are calling this function with 300 as an argument for the b parameter, or we are calling it with string a. Okay, so this is like the scope bubble where we have local scope, okay, where we equal to whatever value we are passing, and we are again calling a function, right? So it will create again a local scope in the memory, and it will assign a value a to the b. There will be two local, okay, and in global scope you can see that this variable is in global scope and this function is in global scope. Okay, means this function you can call it after you have defined it anywhere. And then there is a built-in scope. Okay, so this true is basically you can use for truth statements or Boolean operator as a truth or true or false. So this is defined under built-in scope. Okay, so the lookup or name resolution happens with LEGV rule. Means first, whatever variable you define inside a function, it will first search into the local scope, which is your function. Okay, and if you did not find any definition for that variable, it will look into the enclosing function locals. Okay, so if you have any function inside function, then it will check in the enclosing function scope. And if you do not find that variable in that scope, it will search in the global scope, which is basically module level scope. Okay, so it will search in that, and if it do not find it, then it will search in built-in scope. Okay, so for example, in this, suppose we are saying print true. Now true is not defined inside the function, so it will first search inside the function scope. So it do not find any definition for true, then it will check at the module level. So module level also we have not defined a value for this true scope, true variable. Okay, then it will check into the built-in scope. So any built-in libraries that Python uses, their true means 1. It is like that. So okay, so it is defined in the built-in libraries. So that's how it will search for the any variable use, and it will check its scope. So this is all about and global scope. I have shown you already that if you want to change this variable inside the function, then you should define it as a global A, and then you can change it, and then it will change its value outside as well. But if you do not do that, if you just do a print A, it will actually print this variable, okay? Because we are just reading the variable, then it will be global. But if you try to change it, then whatever variable you have created, new variable inside your function, that will be local to that function. It will not affect the global value of A. Okay, so as long as we are reading, the scope will remain as global scope. But if you try to change, then scope will change. Okay, any questions about scope or any data types that we have seen, functions? Okay, any questions?
No question.
So I think for today we have covered the topics. If there is no question, I think we can drop. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.